MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Welcome to episode 209 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. I'm Allison Gill.
And I'm Harry Dunn. Hey, y'all. We have a lot to cover today. We're only 2 days into the presidency, but we got a lot to cover, including a viral moment from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing, Vivek Ramaswamy leaving DOGE to run for Ohio governor, and Eric Adams visiting Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, buttering him up for a pardon, I'm sure. Although he says not, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Plus, we have some Biden preemptive pardons, Trump's expected pardons of insurrectionists, and updates in both Fulton County. And of course, it wouldn't be a complete episode of Clean Up on Aisle 45 without an update on Rudy Giuliani.
I think that's what's going to get me through today. Talking about Rudy. That's going to help today.
But first, it's Hall of Fame Day on Clean Up on Aisle 45. This is where we shout out our Hall of Fame patrons, our big donors. So a big thank you to Mr. Halfspeed, Greg Robin Smith, a.k.a. Benjamin Franklin Live, A Dinosaur in Dental School, Eslin Tripperanani. You're going to have to email us and tell me how to pronounce your name properly. Karen Sherman. AG promises her next tour will be Baltimore.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And I promise if we go back out on tour, we'll come to Baltimore. Harry and I'll come to Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Rose Flaherty, Tiffany Trump was adopted, Greg Kreimer, and Ren Special K Kaidu. By the way, it was great to see all of you last Friday during our Zoom happy hour. So thank you for supporting us. If you want to become a patron, you can do it at patreon.com/aisle45pod. That's AISLE 45POD. Harry, what are you up to today? We record this on Mondays,
We do record this on Monday. So today, a few hours ago, Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th president, and he didn't have his hand on the Bible. It was common, whatever.
No, but Elon Musk gave a Nazi salute. Did you
see that? Oh my gosh!
Man,
and he was
twice.
proud of it. It was, yeah. No, I watched the coverage. I subjected myself to it so I can, accurately talk about what I saw. Not just get my information from memes. I do my research. But
you're better than me. I didn't watch a lick of it. I watched Sex and the City all day.
I was busy hitting decline on my phone a lot today because I was in the news too.
You were?
It's kind of insane about all the things that have happened today.
Yeah, and let's talk about that big story of the day as it pertains to this podcast. Anyhow, right?
Yeah, right.
From NBC, with just hours remaining in office, President Joe Biden issued a slew of pardons Monday to preemptively protect people that President-elect Donald Trump has threatened. He pardoned former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley, Dr. Fauci, members and staff of the committee that investigated the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, and Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who testified before that committee. Harry, your phone's been kind of blowing up today.
It has. I found out, simultaneously with the rest of the world, with, the news that this was going to happen. I'd never asked for a pardon. I never talked about one. I haven't talked to the White House or anybody in coordination in forever.
I found that the most interesting piece when you told me that nobody reached out to you about this and you learned about it just like the rest of us did.
Yeah, sure. It's been all over the news. People have talked about whether, people would accept pardons. Do we want one? Are we seeking them? But no, I've never talked to the White House about it. Even me and my lawyers, we never talked about it. We didn't do anything wrong. And I feel like that's the common theme with all the people, the Zoe Lofgrens and the Jamie Raskins, Adam Kinzingers, Adam Schiff. We didn't do anything wrong. So we don't need pardons. However, in the pardon, in the statement by the president, President Biden, he states this pardon isn't acknowledging or suggesting these individuals did anything wrong. They did not. They did their jobs. So I feel like that's that statement alone made it a little easier for me to lean into accepting it when he acknowledged we didn't do anything wrong. So sure, it's unprecedented that we live in these times that people would need pardons for just doing their job. But here we are. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it is very unfortunate. And there were, strangely, a lot of people absent from that preemptive pardon list.
Yeah. That was
like
interesting,
Jack Smith or Alex Vindman or,
Cassidy Hutchinson, Olivia Troy, a lot of people. And, I saw social media, Alex Vindman's wife is fuming on social media, and I guess rightfully so. I don't want this to, however, become some world where it's, oh, they got him, they didn't. Like, no, we're all in this together. And, I pardon or not, am always going to be in this fight advocating for people. And this just continues that, the people that we just named, they're deserving. And even probably people that we didn't even name, people's names we don't know that. I'm sure Kash Patel knows. I'm sure Pam Bondi knows. I'm sure Donald Trump knows their names. And those are the people that, I'm worried about and we have to keep fighting for. So there are a lot of people left off the list. I'm grateful. Let's be 100% clear. I still believe I don't need one. But let's not play dumb that Donald Trump is on a retribution tour these next 4 years. So I appreciate the extra coverage that President Biden has given me.
Yeah, and while I believe that the courts would find no reason to accept any sort of an indictment against anybody who did or didn't receive a pardon, it's not about the fact that you wouldn't be successfully prosecuted. It's about the fact that it can cost upwards of $1 million to defend yourself against these kinds of rogue prosecutions. Just look at Sussman, who Durham went after. Andy McCabe and Jim Comey, who were investigated with a really strict audit from the IRS, or all the lawsuits against Hillary Clinton and 30 other co-defendants, including my old co-host here, Pete, and Andy over at the Jack podcast. The process is the punishment, right?
That's absolutely what it is. Well, I can't say that's absolutely what it is. I'm new to this. And I guess that's, I don't want to become an experienced person and having to deal with civil litigation or criminal litigation. I don't want that expertise under my belt. But sure, yeah. And even the mental health of the stress of this, even today, I got so many DMs on Twitter I don't even participate on Twitter anymore. I go over there, peek my head around and see what's going on. But even in my inboxes, innocent people don't need pardons, and Biden's shielding you piece of shit, all that good stuff. But it's unfortunate that you have to even be subjected to that just for doing your job. And it sucks.
Yeah. And that mental health part of it is a huge part of it, which is why, and we'll talk about this at the end when we talk about Rudy, I don't fault Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss for taking a settlement. First of all, we don't know what it was worth.
Yeah.
But man, just to have it over is sometimes the goal.
It's worth it, It's just so worth it just to be done with it. I wish I could be done with this, But as you saw, Donald Trump, he didn't mention January 6th in his Rotunda inaugural address. But he went downstairs to Emancipation Hall and just went unhinged and talked about Adam Crybaby Kinzinger and how he's about to pardon the January 6th. The January 6th crowd is going to be very pleased with us. And he can't stop talking about January 6th. And you got Mike Johnson standing behind him and Steve Scalise just nodding like, proud parents. It's, he won't stop talking about it. So, the fight goes on.
Yeah. And also Biden preemptively pardons some members of his own family.
Yeah.
2 brothers and sister, saying they'd been subject to attacks motivated solely by a desire to hurt me, meaning President Biden. And he was criticized for issuing a pardon last month for Hunter, which I agreed with. He was set to be sentenced on federal gun and tax evasion charges, something the former president had repeatedly said he would not do, but then did. Shit changes.
It absolutely changed.
The circumstances changed on November 5th.
You know what kind of gets me? Man, a lot of people are out here criticizing the pardons and, amongst even, it's bipartisan criticism. Democrats are criticizing Republicans, but we have never seen this before. Like Donald Trump, we've seen it before when his first presidency. Donald Trump has made it clear that he's going to go after people. Why are individuals up in arms that Joe Biden is protecting himself, his family, against people that want to take down his family when they didn't do anything wrong? Like, maybe I'm conflicted on, I don't know, but let's stop acting like this is normal times we're living in. We're not.
No. And that's what was upsetting me, because all these pundits for a while now have been like, we have to stop adhering to norms and we've got to think outside the box. But then they're like, no, this pardoning is outside the norm. I don't think the pardon list was long enough, honestly.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I agree.
But yeah, you mentioned Trump preparing a list of insurrectionists that he plans to pardon. And ABC reports that it includes commuting the prison sentences of hundreds of his supporters who have been convicted of violent attacks against law enforcement. And that, I can't imagine how that makes you feel.
AG, I got, really frustrated today. People were, hey, what is your reaction? What are your thoughts? Excuse me, how long have I been screaming that this is a big deal? Don't do this. What do you mean? What is my reaction? It's the same reaction I've had for the last 4 years of this. And I guess I'm more upset at the people who are now just getting upset about this. Just to be very candid with you, what are we doing here? This isn't anything new. Where were you that you didn't know that this was a possibility? Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see what the FOP is going to do. Are they going to say anything, or are they just going to, sit back? They're just going to be quiet. No comment.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane. And I'm really frustrated because it's been 4 years of the same few individuals, police officers that I'm talking about. There have been a lot of other people out there that have been backing us, and thank you. Where
was the outrage?
Where were y'all then?
Pardoning insurrectionists before the election? Where? This
isn't something new that Trump didn't just decide he was going to do this. I mean, he's been saying about this for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm sorry, my friend.
We shall overcome.
We shall. Something else that happened today, Biden commuted the sentence of the indigenous activist Leonard Peltier. I actually went to a Rage Against the Machine benefit to raise awareness for his pardon back when I was a kid. So it was good to see that today, I think.
Yeah, no, so I'm not too familiar with that. I didn't even know that was on. I saw it, but I was like, okay, cool. But I've just been so consumed. But, I'm all for making wrongs right, or righting wrongs. And I'm glad, that was done.
Yeah. And the 2,500 the rest of the nonviolent drug offenders that were put in, had excruciatingly and unjust long sentences for, the weight of the powder and crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And for Biden to acknowledge that, I thought was good.
It was good, but it's, does it just get swept under the rug under a Trump administration? Oh, Biden's pardoning the drug dealers, but not understanding, the gravity or severity of their individual cases. But he's going to go ahead and let all these people that assaulted cops out. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, no, but back to blue, no.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Not even a little bit. But you know what? I am a little bit happy about how irate Donald Trump is that Mark Milley got a pardon, because I know Trump was champing at the bit to go after that guy. He was waving around his decisions on some stuff at the Pentagon, classified information at the Bedminster Golf Course. We heard audio of that, waving that stuff around. People who shouldn't be seeing it, and even said, don't get too close. This is classified.
He told people it was.
And I'm not the president anymore, so I can't declassify it, like admitted on audio. So he is fuming about that and about Liz Cheney. He really wanted to go after the January 6th committee, and President Biden kneecapped him on that. So
I'm wondering, though, as I was wondering, like, those pardons bring a lot of attention to those individuals, myself included. You know, Donald Trump goes on and continues to, a la Rudy Giuliani, defame the people that are pardoned. I mean, is there a course for civil suits against him? You know, like, so
should be.
You know, we'll
Talk
see.
To Mark.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll see. You know, presidents can be civilly sued. So
yes, they can. All right, we're going to head to New York next, but we have to take a quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We have more Hall of Fame patrons to thank, including January 20 Baby, Democracy Cannot Survive Unregulated Capitalism. It cannot. At Dirt Road Dems, We Will, capital will, survive. David in Brooklyn, the future is not looking bright. Dr. David, Clover's Tree 73, Steve Tao, and Patty B. Thank you to all of you all. Like you just said.
And happy birthday to January 20, baby.
Exactly. And happy birthday to Allison Gill, everybody. January 20th, you know. It's not only is it Martin Luther King Day, but it's Allison Gill's birthday. So happy birthday, AG.
And it's National Cheese Day. So I'll be working on my night cheese.
All right, so let's, like you said before the break, we're headed up to New York. A story from CBS. New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with President-elect Donald Trump at his West Palm Beach, Florida golf club on Friday, 3 days before the inauguration. Adams' team said he and the president-elect discussed a long list of priorities for New York City, but the mayor's opponents within his party claimed he had an ulterior motive. That sounds more likely. A pardon for himself. According to sources, Adams and Trump spoke for about an hour, touching on issues including border security and the deportation of migrants who are repeat violent offenders.
Border security for Canada? I mean, it's New York.
Yeah.
All right. In a statement, Adams said he and the president-elect, quote, had a productive conversation about New York's needs and what's best for our city and how the federal government can play a more helpful role in improving the lives of New Yorkers. While we briefly touched on a number of issues, we specifically focused on the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas and how it would have a positive impact on public safety in our country, how we can bring manufacturing jobs back to New York. Well, you could, if you had elected Kamala Harris, that would have been the way to do that, particularly in the Bronx, and how we can continue to make federal investments in New York City, especially when it comes to infrastructure. Overall, it's not a surprise. Adams sought and was granted the meeting with Trump. Throughout his term, the mayor made a practice of meeting with everyone from President Joe Biden to gang members. He has said partnering with the federal government is critical to New York City's success.
I saw a report that said that Eric Adams had on Martin Luther King Day had a lot of events scheduled, public events of service. And at 3 a.m, he got a call from the Trump administration, and he was invited to the inauguration. And he hightailed it, canceled his events, and he was at the inauguration. I believe NBC reported that. But Adams goes on to say, we want to engage early in the days leading up to the meeting. That's what he said. We're going to sit down and reach out, and we want to sit down with them and talk about some of our visions for the city. Adams' comments came as he disclosed First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer and others were talking with the Trump team to arrange the face-to-face sit-down. Mayor Adams has made quite clear his willingness to work with President-elect Trump and his incoming administration on behalf of New Yorkers. And that partnership with the federal government is critical to New York City's success. The mayor's office said in a statement on Thursday, tomorrow, Mayor Adams will sit down with President-elect Trump and discuss New Yorkers' priorities. The mayor looks forward to having a productive conversation with the incoming president on how we can move our city and country forward.
Yeah, like infrastructure projects, like the Turkish consulate, whose FDNY paperwork he put at the top of the pile and had the building approved without having the fire inspectors look at it. That kind of infrastructure,
right?
Stuff he was indicted for, that stuff. This article goes on to say that an Adams spokesperson said the mayor wanted to talk about a range of priorities, including border security, potential cooperation with federal agents on the deportation of migrants who commit crimes, transit and education aid. And, quote, in my conversation with Trump, he's been clear he wants to help New York and New Yorkers. That's what Adams said. Adams' political opponents saw a darker motive for his trip to Florida. And Harry, you can include me in that group.
Yeah.
They believe the mayor is seeking a pardon from Donald Trump, either before or after his trial for corruption charges. Quote, Eric Adams should state immediately that he will not seek or accept a pardon from Donald Trump. New Yorkers deserve to know if he's putting their interests ahead of his own and whether our tax dollars or Turkish Airlines will be financing his trip to Florida. That's City Comptroller Brad Lander, a Democrat, who's trying to unseat Eric Adams. That's what he said on Twitter.
Yeah. Who is this meeting for? New Yorkers or Eric Adams? Our city has too many problems right now for us to worry about if he's fighting for New Yorkers or a hypothetical pardon for himself. Scott Stringer, the former city comptroller and another Democrat running against Adams, posted on X. Trump seemed to give rise about the possibility of pardoning Adams when he spoke about the mayor at the Al Smith dinner in October. I know what it's like to be persecuted by the DOJ for speaking out against open borders. We were we were persecuted, Eric. I was persecuted, and so were you, Eric. This is what Trump says. I was persecuted.
It's prosecuted.
I know. It's that wasn't. I didn't misread that, y'all. Trump has been persecuted. Not prosecuted.
For speaking out against the border, not for defrauding New Yorkers.
Insane.
Adams said in statements that he did not discuss his corruption case with Trump. So this is probably a lie, but I'll give you the quote anyway.
Cool story,
to be clear,
bro.
We did not discuss my legal case, and those who suggest the mayor of the largest city in the nation shouldn't meet with the incoming president to discuss our city's priorities because of inaccurate speculation or because we're from different parties clearly care more about politics than people. Like, dude, you...
yeah.
Like I've always done, I will take every opportunity possible to advocate for New Yorkers. You took every possibility to steal from New Yorkers. And after our discussion, I strongly believe there is much our city and the federal government can partner on to make New York City safer, stronger, and more affordable. I thank President Trump for his time and attention and look forward to working with him to benefit all New Yorkers. That's what the mayor's statement said. And, I don't think eliminating the mortgage interest deduction and giving that money to rich people is going to benefit New Yorkers, maybe like 3 New Yorkers.
Like 3 of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, unbelievable. Some political experts say Adams' decision to meet with President-elect Trump was a smart move. It's a reasonable thing to do. A reasonable mayor would do it, and I think it benefits us in New York City for him to have a good working relationship with the incoming president, said J.C. Polanco. Did I say that right? Yeah, J.C. Polanco, an associate professor at the University of Mount St. Vincent. Polanco said Adams did the right thing by trying to carve out a good relationship with Trump. And he's not the only one. I think if you're mayor, you have to try your best to work with whoever's in power, said New York City public advocate Jumaine Williams. Yes, I agree, right?
Yeah, but that's not what's
happening here. But that's not what's happening here.
Not at all.
Trump probably wanted, what can you give me? Like Eric Adams is talking about how can, New York would. No, Trump's all about himself. I wonder what Trump asked for in return when, Adams did not, quote, ask for a pardon.
Mayor of Los Angeles didn't need to go talk to him at Mar-a-Lago.
At all.
All right. Next up this is also from CBS News. Vivek Ramaswamy, President-elect Donald Trump's choice to co-lead DOGE, is what I call it, the Department of Government Efficiency, with entrepreneur Elon Musk. Entrepreneur? Really? We're going with entrepreneur? Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Is expected to soon step away from the task force. That's what CBS News has learned. Ramaswamy intends to announce a campaign for Ohio governor, much to the joy of pretty much every Democrat, because he's going to get his floor wiped with him. At least I hope. And he's supposed to announce this as soon as the end of January, according to multiple sources. Ramaswamy, who's 39, had no comment. People close to Musk have privately undercut Ramaswamy for weeks, frustrated with his lack of participation in the heavy lifting, according to sources familiar with the internal dynamics. There's been friction between the incoming rank and file DOGE staff, or Doggy, or whatever.
Doggy.
and Ramaswamy. They don't like him. Nobody likes him. Who thought that the sources said that Ramaswamy has been subtly encouraged to exit? Quote, Vivek has worn out his welcome, one person close to Trump said. Yeah, that guy, I don't think anybody wants, like, he's like Ted Cruz. Like, nobody likes that guy.
You're not welcome here anymore.
Man, GTFO.
Yeah. Ramaswamy recently met with Ohio sitting governor Mike DeWine about the state Senate seat left vacant by Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. But on Friday, DeWine announced he is appointing his lieutenant governor to the post. And Vivek will launch a campaign for governor in Ohio early next week.
Oh, the drama.
Oh, should be so much fun.
Ron DeSantis also just appointed Ashley Moody to fill Marco Rubio's Senate seat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, she's the attorney general down there. One of the two attorney generals, the other one being Pam Bondi, that did nothing about the statutory rape perpetrated by one Matt Gaetz. But so there's that. But yeah, Vivek running for Ohio governor. He's from there. He's like from the Cincinnati area or something like that.
How did he do? Like, I'm curious. I'll have to look it up. But how did he do in the? Did he drop out by the time Ohio had their primaries?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm curious to know. Did they even like him there?
No one liked him anywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess at least the efficiency department is not being run by two people anymore. That seems excessive.
Little overkill. Two rich people, right?
Yeah. So nobody likes Vivek. Nobody likes Boris Epstein.
Nobody likes Trump.
Elon's rubbing people the wrong way too. It's just gonna, like Stephanie Miller says, it's just gonna be a big bag of rats. Hey, how was the Stephanie Miller show live?
So cool. My gosh, I had such a good time there. It was a lot of good people there. Some really talented people, funny people who care about our country, and they express it through very, at times, dark humor. But it was good for the soul, and I'm glad that I was able to participate. Thank you, Stephanie Miller and crew.
Yeah. Yeah. And Monday night, I know people aren't listening to this until Wednesday, but I know John Fugelsang, who was there at that live event, is going to be doing a special on Martin Luther King Jr. Tonight.
Yeah, John's awesome. John is an awesome guy, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, he sure is. All right, we have to take another quick break, but we'll be right back. We're going to talk about some viral moments in Pete Hegseth's garbage confirmation hearing, but we need to take this break, so stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. We have more Hall of Fame patrons to thank, including Je Suis Fatigue, Suzanne Ashworth, Laura Saba, Christine Passion, Joan Qualls, Catherine Gilbert White is totally awesome at her job, skintwalletusa.com, Mr. Stu Pedasso, and Alma Rennan. So thank you very much. You make this show happen. You keep the lights on. We appreciate you very, very much. Next up, there were multiple confirmation hearings last week, which seemed to be kind of an exercise in futility at this point. But Chad de Guzman wrote about a viral moment from Pete Hegseth's hearing for Time magazine. And I just kind of want to preface this. Mark Cuban was on Blue Sky saying there should have been more questions like this.
Yeah.
Like quiz type questions. Now, I think Mark Wayne Mullen or Sheehy or somebody was asking like what caliber bullet goes in this gun and how many push-ups
can you do? Yeah.
And like that's not the kind of stuff that that's not the kind of stuff
I get it.
we try to save the profanity on cleanup for the weekend show, but that's not to run the Department of Defense. That's not the kind of stuff that you need to be asking. So this is from Time magazine. Hegseth, former Fox News host who Donald Trump nominated to be defense secretary, came under fire Tuesday during a Senate confirmation hearing when he faced questions about his history of alleged sexual assault and excessive drinking, his views on women in the military, and his role in the pardoning of men accused of war crimes. He also said he didn't care about the Geneva Convention. But one particular moment from the 4.5-hour grilling has gained traction online when he wasn't able to name a single country in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. In what has now gone viral with millions of views on Twitter and other platforms, Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, who I love.
She's fantastic.
She's incredible.
She's a really nice woman too. Yeah.
Yes, I got to meet her at the DNC. She's just truly a patriot. She's called Hegseth not qualified, and she says she appreciates that he's talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, but then asked Hegseth if he could name the importance of at least one of the nations in ASEAN and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations. She added, and how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way? Hegseth responded that he, quote, couldn't tell you the exact amount of nations in that, before saying, but I know we have allies in South Korea and Japan, and in AUKUS with Australia. Quote, none of those three countries that you've mentioned are in ASEAN, Duckworth interjected. I suggest you do a little homework before you prepare for these types of negotiations.
Yeah, I saw that. And I don't know why that didn't get more traction in mainstream media, because you don't even know that I don't know it, but I'm not the nominee to be Secretary of Defense. And I really wish that got a little, well, maybe it still can. There's still time. ASEAN, a bloc that has had diplomatic relationships with the U.S. for nearly half a century, has 10 members: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Though ASEAN is not a military alliance, the U.S. has defense alliances in both the Philippines and Thailand, while Singapore is a major security cooperation partner. Former Representative Debbie Muscarell-Powell from Florida shared a clip of the moment on X and questioned Hegseth's suitability for the role. Hegseth can't name one country that's part of ASEAN, and he doesn't know any of the U.S.'s international security agreements. America, if you want peace and security, this ain't it, she wrote. This ain't it.
Yeah.
Other social media users were concerned also about Hegseth's gaffe. I don't even know if it was a gaffe. I mean, he didn't know. This is simultaneously hilarious and terrifying. I guess that's accurate. One X user posted, no great power in history has combined such immense imperial hubris with such profound ignorance of others. From a basic knowledge standpoint, Pete Hegseth is woefully unqualified for this job, posted the anti-Trump organization Really American. Vote Vets, a liberal advocacy group, called it a mic drop moment. I agree. That's why I wish there was more pushback on it, AG.
Right, and I wish there were more questions like that.
Absolutely.
But others came, like, what are the qualifications to become an 06?
Yeah, he probably doesn't know.
No, because he was an 04. All right. But others came to Hegseth's defense. Quote, I've literally never heard of ASEAN, and I've followed geopolitics all my life, one Twitter user said. I wouldn't really brag about saying that. Sounds like they're just throwing obscure, irrelevant gotcha questions at him and then saying, you should have prepared for this. For half a century, we've been...
Unbelievable.
Former Rep. Peter Meyer, I think is how you say it.
Peter Meyer. Yeah.
Republican from Michigan said, okay, this is dumb. Clearly Hegseth heard Asia. And if I was in Hegseth's shoes, I would have said the same thing about Japan, South Korea, and AUKUS, because it's not at all clear why Duckworth is raising ASEAN, a political economic union in the context of Indo-Pacific defense agreements. By the way, AUKUS is a trilateral security partnership between Australia, the UK, and the US. Also,
I'm surprised to hear Peter Meyer say that. Peter Meyer, yeah, that's what it was. He voted to impeach Donald Trump and was ousted out of Congress for doing so.
Yep.
Yeah.
But here's what Lindsey Graham said. He praised Hegseth's overall performance at the confirmation hearing. Another Twitter user pointed out, quote, Hegseth was so prepared that he couldn't name a single ASEAN nation. Now, who should know about global affairs? Oh, that's right, a defense secretary. That's somebody responding to Lindsey Graham praising Hegseth. So all in all, the thing that that bothers me a little bit about these hearings is that we don't have more questions like that, like the one from Tammy Duckworth. And when Mark Cuban put on Blue Sky, like, there should be quiz questions. I was like, well, Tammy Duckworth got a good one in. And Mark Cuban responded to me saying, yeah, and there should have been more like that. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And not how many push-ups can you do or what's the caliber in your Beretta. Those are quiz questions for people trying to join the Army. Like,
I mean, they're icebreakers. They're icebreakers that you talk about on podcasts. This is insane. Like I say, I'm not ashamed to admit I didn't know what that is.
No,
but like I said,
neither.
I'm not trying to be Secretary of Defense. Mm-hmm. And let's be clear that's Tammy Duckworth asked that question, assuming that absolutely he knows what this is. I don't need to explain it. So it wasn't like she set him up for this hard question. Like, she didn't.
Mark Milley would have known.
I would have bet my life on that. He absolutely would have known. So
Mattis would have known. Any of the Joint Chiefs would have known.
Yep.
All right. We have to take another quick break, but we'll be back to thank some more Hall of Fame patrons, and we're going to talk about the update on the Fani Willis prosecution in Fulton County. She's currently not in charge of that prosecution, but we have an update on those 6 dismissed charges. Plus, it'll be Rudy time at the end of the segment.
Rudy.
So, Rudy, stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. We have our last group of Hall of Fame patrons to thank, including Sharon Tukalski. I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. I was telling Allison during our break that she's really good at these names and pronunciations. Like, forgive me. So
it's all those years of reading Robert Mueller filings and having to pronounce Russian names.
You know what? You're right. That'll do it. So forgive me, y'all. Roberta Reed, Meg Alexander, Jens Elstrup Rasmussen, Deborah Kirby. Please don't read this on the pod. We don't need a call out. Thanks for what you do. So yes, we're going to read it on the pod. Star Lahanis, Fran Reichenbach, Maria Tovar, Kimberly D. Steven. All right. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you.
And I think it's Jens Rasmussen. But
was it that?
I think it's a soft Jens? J.
They should see. Thank you, Allison. I would never get that. But all right, next up from Ella Lee at the Hill, a Georgia appeals court on Friday affirmed the dismissal of 6 counts of the state's 2020 election interference against President-elect Donald Trump and his allies, upholding a trial judge's decision that the charges must be thrown out due to a lack of detail. We find that the indictment fails to include enough detail to sufficiently apprise the defendants of what they must be prepared to meet so that they can intelligently prepare their defenses, Judge E. Trenton Brown III wrote for the 3-judge panel, which ruled unanimously.
Yep. Okay. So you'll remember 6 of these charges were dismissed. Mark, I think it was actually Chesbro who was like, well, can I unplead guilty then, since one of those charges was the one I pled guilty to? And then the judge is like, get out. No, I may not. Trump faced 3 of those charges, which notably involved his effort to pressure Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find 11,780 votes, enough to overturn President Biden's victory in the state. All of the charges dropped pertain to efforts to solicit Georgia officials to violate their oaths of office, but do not impact the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, or RICO, count that each defendant faces. That's the count that serves as the foundation of the far-reaching prosecution. A judge last March dismissed those charges, also citing a lack of detail. The dropping of charges is also unrelated to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's appeal over her disqualification in overseeing the case.
Yeah, earlier on Friday, Trump's team asked the court to dismiss Willis's appeal, which stems from her being booted off the case following the revelation of a relationship she had with top prosecutor whom she hired to work on the matter. And ain't that something? Like that and I remember watching that, I particularly remember it because this was that was going on, and Fani Willis was on the stand when I was actually running for office. And I remember making phone calls for people asking for money. And I got stuck sometimes because I caught myself watching the TV when I was supposed to be. But yeah, that was so sad what happened to that. And it's unfortunate. So.
Yeah. And we all know what happens if she remains disqualified, right? Because she was actually really early on disqualified from being able to prosecute Burt Jones because she had done a fundraising event for Burt Jones's lieutenant governor for an opponent of his reelection. And that was a conflict of interest. She was removed from the case. And then this Georgia board of prosecutors headed up by a guy named, I think it's Pete Skandalakis, if memory serves.
That name sound right.
He was supposed to decide who to assign the case to. And instead of giving it to the prosecutor in Cobb County or the prosecutor in Coffee County, he decided a year later that he himself would prosecute the case. And then he dropped the case. And so Burt Jones will never face accountability. And that is where this case is headed unless and until Fani Willis can convince the Georgia Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court of Georgia to overturn the disqualification. And she has filed. So we'll see what happens.
She's filed it, but let's be honest. She has an uphill battle as the way things have been unfolding for her. But you know what? Our show wouldn't be complete without what? An update on Rudy Giuliani. We were expecting to be covering his trial over his Florida condo today, but after being over 2 hours late for his first day of trial, we learned that Rudy Giuliani reached a settlement with Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss.
Yep. From Reuters, Rudy Giuliani, former New York City mayor. What's going on with New York City mayors, man? Who served as Donald Trump's personal lawyer, agreed not to defame two Georgia election workers he falsely accused of helping steal the 2020 election as part of a legal settlement on Thursday that lets him keep his Florida condo and his Manhattan apartment. The election workers, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Shaye Moss, said they also were compensated as part of this settlement, but did not offer specifics. As we know, they won a $148 million judgment after a judge ruled that Giuliani had defamed them by claiming they helped Democrat Joe Biden defeat the Republican Trump with illegal ballots. Trump returns to the presidency on Monday.
Today. Yikes. Judge Beryl Howell of U.S. District Court in Washington found Giuliani in contempt of court last week for defaming Freeman and Moss again. The second time he has been held in contempt in his legal fight with the two workers. In a statement, Giuliani said he did not admit liability or wrongdoing as part of the agreement. Giuliani's statement did not mention compensation, and his lawyer did not immediately respond to requests to comment on Freeman and Moss's assertion that they had been compensated. Giuliani declared bankruptcy last year after the $148 million judgment and after a November court hearing told reporters, "I have no cash." Yeah.
The settlement means Giuliani, who's 80, will no longer face trial to determine whether he must turn over his Palm Beach condo and 3 New York Yankees World Series baseball rings to Freeman and Moss. Giuliani had already turned over some assets, including his apartment on Manhattan's Upper East Side, to them to Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss to help pay off the judgment. And in a statement read by his lawyer, reporters outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, Giuliani said the settlement now lets him keep the Palm Beach condo and the Manhattan apartment. Quote, "I and the plaintiffs have agreed not ever to talk about each other in any defamatory manner, and I urge others to do the same." That's according to Giuliani's statement as read
Wait,
by
that's so funny. If I agree not to talk about each other, they never said anything about you, bro. This was a one-way street, and you were the only one driving. Like, they didn't say anything about you. You were the only one defaming, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm sure it was like, okay, but you can't say anything bad about me.
Yeah,
all right, fine.
Okay, yeah.
That was a statement read by Joe Camerata, probably one of the weirdest lawyers I've ever had the pleasure of reading filings from. Giuliani remember we read that filing?
Oh my gosh, Allison, we got to bookmark that episode. That was crazy.
Yeah. Giuliani had argued that he should have been allowed to keep the condo because it was his permanent residence. That's not what the judge found. And could not give up the rings because he gave them as gifts to his son, Andrew. Under the settlement, Andrew Giuliani said he gets to keep the rings.
But Freeman and Moss also issued a statement. You know what? Such strong women. I'm big fans of theirs. They go ahead and say, "We can now move forward with our lives. We have agreed to allow Mr. Giuliani to retain his property in exchange for compensation and his promise not to ever defame us. In a 2021 lawsuit in Washington, Freeman and Moss accused Giuliani of harming their reputations by falsely claiming that surveillance video had showed them concealing and counting suitcases filled with illegal ballots at an Atlanta basketball arena where votes were processed to help Biden beat Trump. The trial was to have been held before U.S. District Court Lewis Lyman in Manhattan, the same district where the now disbarred Giuliani served as the top federal prosecutor from 1983 to 1989. Once praised for his response as mayor to the September 11th, 2001 attacks, Giuliani's reputation is now in taters. Tatters. Tatters. I just want to say taters. I
like taters.
I like taters too,
In taters. Giuliani has pled not guilty to criminal charges in 2 states for trying to overturn Biden's victory over Trump. On January 6th, Lyman held Giuliani in contempt for failing to comply with his court orders and obstructing efforts by Freeman and Moss to determine his primary residence. 4 days later, Howell found him in contempt in Washington for continuing to defame the 2 women. Howell previously found Giuliani liable for defamation as a sanction after he failed to turn over electronic records to Freeman and Moss. Jurors in Washington later found that he must pay Freeman and Moss $73 million in compensation and $75 million as punishment. Now, I know a lot of folks are upset because we wanted to see these apartments and the rings and the Joe DiMaggio. We wanted to see it all handed over.
Yeah.
But I have to say, there's a compensation portion of this settlement agreement that we don't know about, and it could be a number that equals that amount. And we know Rudy's been hiding assets and lying.
Sure.
And if he came up to them and said, I'll give you this much money and you don't have to have the receivership, you don't have to sell all my places, you don't have to continue to deal with me ever again, I certainly would have taken I certainly would have taken that deal. And it seems like from the statement that you read, Harry, that they just want to move on with their lives,
Yeah, well, they've said this as early as the lawsuit was filed. This isn't about money. They want their name back. Like when Ruby Freeman testified before the January 6th committee, she said she just wants her name back. Like she goes down into the stores and she has to look over her shoulders all the time. This wasn't about money. This was about peace for them. Now I hope they get as much money as, they are able to, but they were clear. They just want him to stop defaming us. Seems like a simple request, and it sounds like they got it.
Do you think he'll comply?
My heart says absolutely not. He can't help himself. Especially, he's going to feel empowered with Donald Trump back in the White House. It's going to come up. Donald Trump even just today have said that, 2020, we won that election. So, I mean, Rudy can't help himself. But for the sake of those amazing women, I hope that he does. But, history tells me no, he's not going to uphold his end of the deal.
Yeah. And if he gets to drinking, man, he probably forget that he promised not to do that. You know?
Yeah.
And again, this isn't a mockery of people who are dealing with addiction. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
We just like to laugh at Rudy, y'all. Yeah.
But it does make for loose lips. And, that's also another reason I'm worried about Hegseth being in charge of, major decisions. Yeah, you remember when, talk about Hegseth here for a second before we get out of here for the day. Do you remember the outrage? They almost they did hold a hearing, the Republicans, about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, a black man.
Yeah.
Because he went to the hospital and didn't tell President Biden, but put his deputy in charge of the Pentagon while he was gone.
Yeah, I remember that. That was, it came out that he had cancer and he was dealing with that. So, yeah, I mean, I wish the same standards. We know that they don't. The standards apply all across the board, and they don't. It's literally party over country. And everywhere we can't have that. But if there's one place where we absolutely can't have it, it's in the national security realm, our defense realm. And it seems like that's all that it is, partisan politics.
Yeah. Well, we might not have an update on Rudy for a while, unless, of course, he goes on and defames these two women again in the next week or so. But he will be facing probably trial in at least one state. I'm not sure about the Fulton County situation yet, but we'll stay on top of it for you. Yeah. But we still do, as far as I can tell, have Steve Bannon's trial.
Steve Bannon's coming up. That's
coming up in February. Yeah. So maybe we can start ending the show with the Steve Bannon
update. And he's never going to stop talking. He went to jail. So, we'll see how that goes. But he is one that is dedicated to his beliefs and is going to make for some comedic relief for us in these times that we need. So.
He's dedicated to his beliefs and dedicated to wearing 3 shirts at a time.
And 5 pins across his shirt. Have you ever seen that? What a sloppy looking man.
What a sloppy, slovenly boy. To quote, what was that from? Lean on Me. Remember that movie?
Lean on Me. Yeah.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they could call me Batman, right?
Yes. What a great movie
Look at this sloppy, slovenly boy.
That is him. That is Steve Bannon, y'all.
Yes. If a cold sore were a human, I think somebody said.
I bet you a lot of listeners just went, ew.
Ew. Yeah. He's gross. We'll just leave it at that. But anyway, it's been a hell of a day, Harry. So thank you for jumping on to record. I know you've been saying your phone's been blowing up and you've been like, nope.
I was actually looking forward to this, and it's your birthday, and every time I get to chat with you, and happy birthday to you, and I hope you enjoy your cheese.
I will enjoy my cheese as the 33-year-old that I am.
Yes, indeed. I love it.
Everybody, we will be back in your ears next week. Patrons, we'll be back in your ears this weekend with a bonus episode for you. Thanks again to everybody who came to the Q&A Zoom happy hour.
That was so much fun.
A great time.
That was so much fun.
Such good questions, such cool people listen to the show. And again, thanks to our Hall of Fame patrons. Again, if you want to become a patron, patreon.com/aisle45pod. You can join us on our next Zoom happy hour, and you'll get these episodes ad-free and early. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here today on this Monday, January 20th? I know it's Wednesday as you're listening, but...
Yeah, listen, these next 4 years, they're not going to be fun. They're not going to be joyful. They're not going to be productive as people that believe in helping other people. They're not going to be. That's just the honest truth of it. But I will ask you all this one favor. If I can stay in this fight after going through the hell that I've been through, I ask you all to remain in it with me. That's it. I don't ask for too much, but y'all don't throw up your hands and give up. Once y'all see me do it, then I give you permission to do it. But until then, keep on fighting with me, y'all.
That's like those old alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives shirts that say, if you see me running, follow me.
Yes. Absolutely. So
I appreciate you, Harry. I appreciate everything you do. I know that you were working really hard on these to try to get some of these Republican senators not to vote on some of these confirmations. And I appreciate all your hard work. So everybody, we'll see you next time. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.